Hi everyone, Kate Bora and Fiona Pearman joining you for this week's Facebook Live. And this month we're digging into executive presence. And I think it's super helpful to start to unpack what is executive presence because it's a word that we talk about a lot. And importantly, in context of our work, how it's different to confidence.
Yeah, I think when we think about executive presence, sometimes we think it's all about being loud and being very polished and coming across in a certain way. But it's actually something that's more about a grounded, something that's internal, an intrinsic sense of being able to hold attention and communicate. It's very much a felt experience and it's noticed by all the senses. It's not just the words spoken, it's the way in which that's done.
Yeah, I think when we think about how presence feels, and it's useful to think about this in context of presence you observe of others, but equally yourself, right? When you're walking into a room and you're seeking to demonstrate executive presence, in many cases, and in fact, in most cases, it's a calm, collected, and centered experience that projects certainty and confidence, even under pressure. And so, presence is felt by humans on multiple levels, right? It's felt at a physical level, it's felt at an emotional level, and it's felt at a mental level.
And when we think about what it takes, what does it take to hold executive presence? There's a lot of factors, but it boils down to being able to listen deeply, to synthesize complexity, and to ask those incisive, poignant questions. It's about communicating not just competence, I know something, but it's also about engaging with curiosity and connection. And we very much think it's important to be aligned, taking aligned action from a place of personal power and self belief.
Yeah, I think importantly, executive presence is this human connection. It's the ability to be vulnerable, to allow others to see the real you and not in a performative way or not in a rehearsed way. And so true executive presence fosters connection with others. Yes, demonstrating strength and capability, but equally demonstrating humanity. And I think as leaders, it really allows us to demonstrate who we are, the impact we can have in an organization beyond the title and the place that we hold.
And if we're looking to define, what is this executive presence? We know it's a really grounded ability to hold attention, communicate with clarity that is felt on every level, that physical, emotional, mental phase. We know it's about a calm, composed inner power that's expressed in the way we come across that conveys that authenticity and self-belief. And it's inviting connection through vulnerability as much as strength. Ultimately, it's very much like confidence. It's not a trait that you either have or don't. It's actually a skill. It's actually something you can cultivate with practice.
Yeah, and I think that's the opportunity, right? Um, as leaders, we don't often think about this. We think about credentials on CVs, we think about, maybe communication skills. We don't often think about this conversation around an executive presence. And in fact, when we were doing the work on the book, we brought, some of our brains trust into a room and we really dug deep into is the topic confidence or is it executive presence? And we landed on confidence for a number of reasons, but largely because when we think about the distinction between executive presence and confidence, confidence is an internal state. It's how you feel about yourself, your ability and your belief in yourself to be able to handle challenges, make decisions, create impact. And that's very much where we landed on the working definition of confidence. And in many cases, it's largely invisible to others. We hear often women talking about, everyone else looks at me and thinks that I sound confident, I look confident, but inside I don't feel confident at all. And so when we think about then executive presence is far more, I guess, a manifestation of confidence. It's an external experience. It's something that others perceive in you. It's something others experience. It's something they feel. So very much this outward expression of confidence, but communicated through your words, your actions, your energy, and of course your body language.
Some of the key distinctions here is the source. Where does this come from? Confidence comes from within. It's all about that self belief, self-trust, mindset, and your clarity of your place and what you're doing. Presence is how that confidence, how all that inner sense of self is experienced and felt by others. When we think about the way in which it's expressed, confidence might stay internal. It might be something quiet within you, you just have. It may not be something you choose to express. You can feel it without necessarily showing it. But presence is always visible. In fact, presence exists in the arena and audience of other people. People notice it and they feel it instantly, even before we speak.
Yeah, I think presence is a far more sanitized word in terms of leadership capability. It's something that we would use regularly, and something, I guess, broader leadership development kind of conversations talk about building executive presence. I think confidence is something that's often hidden away. Sometimes centered around shame, like what's wrong with me? And so ultimately, that's why we went with confidence, because confidence is the fuel for so much when we think about how we show up as leaders. It all starts there. I think you can feel confident but fail to project that presence, and we see that with lots of women that we talk to, even conversations around my confidence comes across as aggressive. As opposed to projecting presence. So that's an interesting distinction to link into, and less common, but still, it happens. You can appear to have presence without true confidence, but ultimately, um, you know, people eventually pick up, right, on the disconnect. The multiple levels with which we communicate, not just with our words, our body language, but everything says that if there is a disconnect, ultimately, even if stakeholders can't articulate it, they can feel that something's going on here. I think the sweet spot is when confidence fuels presence.
We're going to leave it there. If you've enjoyed today's confidence conversation, or you know someone who might enjoy it, tag them or share this video with them. And look, if you'd like to hear more of the conversations, head over to our YouTube channel where there are over 350 videos to dig into, plus our clients talking about the impact of the Acts of Confidence program. And when you're ready to go deeper with your relationship with confidence, visit our website, coreconfidence.com.au.